What's going down, Vault Hunters? And let's go ahead and get to the 1.07 that I know that's going to immediately go, but let's give it a little bit of a boost. So if you were going to start the update, which you just sort of already done, you just need to do that. Go to download, and we're going to see how fast this actually goes into play while we cover the news. A 1.4 gigabyte download with about 24 seconds, and let's go ahead and jump into the news, covering a span of information. As we dive into the news at this portion in time, there is a lot of stuff. This could be considered a hot fix, but I'm going to reach out to a lot of you fans out there that if this doesn't come into a fixing standpoint, or if it's unmarkable on weapons, or whatever the case might be that's prevalent out there, drop a comment. I reach to everyone out there to comment to it. Now, the new content that's coming down to a situation, taking down at the Mayhem Black Site, has recruited a Vault Hunter to destroy the top secret weapons Mayhem has been developing at their Black Site. You and your squad should prepare for an extreme challenge because this content is balanced for 4 players at level 50. This is some elite raid stuff. As you can see, you can gain the portion of the access to the Black Site via the mission on Sanctuary 3. After completing the main mission on the campaign with the characters, take down the features and the special rules, and now that we found the rest of the game, respawning is disabled. So make sure you and your co-pilots get a second wind, or you are going to get pretty much separated until the team is wiped out. So this is basically like Destiny, and when you got into a raid, that's why I referenced it when I was reading it right a little bit before. It's like, this is basically they pulled a raid like rules, which isn't too bad. It's like a whole new difficulty, and I kind of like that. And I'll take a pause real fast to say all the community members that are joining in, or other people that are joining in new, if you are having issues, I noticed in the last few patch notes and golden keys, the shift codes that I've been giving out daily nowadays, is that there's a lot of people out there looking to like meet up and like beat these missions. So you can drop a comment, put this, system that you're playing in your gamer tag, and I'm sure someone will chime in. I've seen a lot of success off of that, but let's get back to the news. I just want to put that out there. I'm totally cool with that on the comment forums. As we can continue to break down, if the portion of you dying, which is the permanent, if you are not out, but you die until the first half, you will get a rejoin to your team. So if your team can't make it to the halfway point, you will get a second chance in the situation in the Valkyrie squad. If you're out of the second half, but your team manages to defeat the Wonton, the Invincible, you will get a respawn. So hopefully root your team on inside of that headset of theirs to not die, to keep the rewards in your didn't complete earns. So you can still benefit, you just got to make sure you have faith in your team. Make sure that your squad is in this session before you throw the switch in the air in the lock, or anyone who joins after the switch is thrown joins as a Spectre. So do remind yourself that there are some rules to this situation. Fixes and modifications to the Mayhem 4. Mayhem 4 is here for players looking for the toughest challenge in the game. Mayhem 4 adds another increase to the enemies in health, increasing the loot drops and chances for all the rarities. In a situation of what you're going into, as it adds in a new legendaries, because the health value greatly increased. Mayhem 4 also slightly adjusts the random modifier system. So do take wary notice of that situation, that you will be seeing some different fluctuations from that. Drop a comment on what you're experiencing. Mayhem will only roll on one positive modifier for the players and the one enemy bonus modifiers. We want players to try different buildings without several hampering of their abilities to take down enemies in Mayhem 4. Note that Mayhem 1 through 3 are unchanged. In the addition to increasing the enemy's health and adjusting the modifiers, the Mayhem 4 contains new legendary weapons and class mods for the players to hunt. These new pieces and up gears, which will be contributed to new builds and new ways to kill down enemies. To support the Mayhem 4, we've changed the Mayhem station slightly. Players will be active in the Mayhem through the centers and the pillars to increase or decrease the Mayhem levels. By utilizing the pillars on each side, looking forward, we will monitor the changes of the Mayhem 4 closely. You're working hard on Mayhem 2.0. which that means they see a big chunk of people. So there is some people up there on Mayhem 4, but you're kind of a zebra in a flock of horses at this point in time. As Mayhem, and you will see, which ends up branding a new gameplay in addition in the Mayhem modes in future. Until then, we hope you enjoy the new challenges. Let's go ahead and go to the bank slot. Looking at the situation of what they have basically expanded in the bank expansion, all characters now begin the game with 20 bank slots, increasive up to 10. The exiting bank SDUs will give everyone a total of 100 available spaces. An additional 10 bank SDUs are available to purchase in Marcus's shop on Sanctuary 3 at your convenience. Utilizing the in-game cash currency, each awarding 20 spaces for the grand total of 300 total bank spaces. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, making it rain with all those loots. That makes sense though. They have so many great pieces of loot nowadays in the events that they rolled out for what ended up happening for the last awesome freaking event. Like, people want to stock up. That's seasonal loot. Why not, right? So dedicating the loot pools for the bosses. Speaking of loot, and the bosses have updated with new loot pools that give the dedicated legendary items to drop. Players can now discover which bosses drop their favorite gear more easily, farm their favorite items. Let's the hunt begin. And the situation of the additional points on the vending machines. As you can see, where you're looking at the following environments of what basically has come down to gameplay, and the additional vending machines, they can be typically be found in before bosses, or in the midway in a large environment. Having Atlas AQ, some parts in the Let's Trust City, Jacob's Estate, the Canopy, the Ruins, and the Stars. You have and Athena's as well. That's me missing that very first one. But you have a lot of plethora of stuff. And if you are commenting on these situations on their forums, and I will post both the community forums that they have on Gearbox, which is the official Borderlands page, and then the forum that I have on Reddit. Either or are great between community members, and these are what they check in order to actually keep these things updating. So besides that, let's look at the targeted dummies that are going to be coming into gameplay. You ever experienced an update and you just wanted to take out some aggression? Well, Borderlands has got your back with this test dummy. You can take out your aggression on their test and their gear on the Handsome Jack targets inside the shooting range on Sanctuary 3. Shoot at your heart's content. As we can see, the end game balances and coming into a situation. For these patches, we have adjusted many passive involving companions, such as Iron Bear, Digital Clone, Hulk's Plat. Oh, that's great. Actually, oh my gosh, Meat Thief, if I remember correct. I don't know why they didn't put his name. Meat Thief has a name too. But anyways, as you want, and we wanted to increase their vulnerabilities for the latest levels of the Mayhem, while also targeting some of the passives that we have underperforming compared to others. Iron Bear saw an increasement to the base scaling. In addition, and bonuses were added through the passives and the augments. We allow some of the Zane's kill skills bonuses to stack up to 2 times, increasing their output to under certain conditions. Bulk's Pet, Meat Thief, also saw an increasement over the levels to their damage, so that they didn't feel underpowered for the Mayhem modes. We are currently happy to add a variety of Amara's builds, but we are always monitoring the feedback. Just like I mentioned before, ladies and gentlemen, you can get into it, but let's look at Moe's, which seems to be making a huge chunk of the list. As you can see, in situations as the Iron Bear damage increases per level to a total of 150 at the maximum level. You have a measurement now given to Iron Bear to their bonuses too. As the situation going into the monitors of Iron Bear, you have the situation which also deals the additional fire damage on criticals. Scoring the RPMs up to a whole new level also grants you an increased hard points damage by 5% per level. Vampire, which comes in also with the Iron Bear as this goes into situation seeming tuning the pets, deals an area damage. Iron Bear receives half of the healing bonuses. Iron Bear now launches barrels when the player melees them. That's pretty cool. Increasing the Iron Bear's bubble shield to 20% to 50% of Mo's health. Oh, neat. So it mimics that of what your health is going, seems like, from what they're saying right there. Looking at Zane, as we scroll down into his big list, the SNT damage scale increases by 2% per level. Donnie's broke, the pocket full of grenades, the cool hands, violent violence, the violent speed of bonuses now stacked twice. Fix the violent momentum to scale more at a higher moving speed. Best serves the cold in the situation of what goes into a gameplay. As GameStop seems to be going on my feed somehow. Gotta love pop-ups. Anyways, moving on, as I caught that midway. We left off with a variation of the movement scaling to a higher speed. The best serve cold radius and damage bonus increases by 2% per levels. As you situationally point goes into the confident, increasing maximum weapon bonuses to 20 to 35%. As you go into the situation of change trick of the light elements to the cryo and increasing the bonuses 18 to 36%. Borrowed time duration increases from 15 to 30% per active skill. Double barrel bonus increases 20 to 30, give or take, not, but that 20 to 25. So there's about a 5% variance inside of that situation. I was hoping for about a 30. It would have been nice to have that 10%, but they probably had a cap because it's a shotgun-ish barrel blunder blaster. Anyways, quick breathing now restored. 50%. Now the cloning health after swap. Pockets full of grenades bonus slightly decreases as they kind of nerf the situation, going from 6.5 to about 5% is now stacked. Looking at the situation of what you have, the violent violence, the bonus slightly decreases by 4 to 3% in now stacks. As we go to Falk, or getting some flack, rather. What the flock? But anyways, I really do love the Borderlands humor that they bring to the table all the darn time. Looking at the portion of the ambush predators now has an HUD, a HUD icon, when the buff is active. Increase the pet's damage to a scaling of 10 to about 5% per level instead of about 9%. You also have a meat thief damage for as far as what we go into. All of those ads are the Grim Harvest at 7%, the Most Dangerous Game at 9%, the Stalker at 1%, the Furious Attack at a 0.06% per stack, and you look at the Fast and the Furious at 10% per level. As well as the Lick the Wounds gain, the pet benefits from the reviving of the player. Increasing the pet's damage for the Psycho head on a stick for 10 to about 20%. Increasing the damage for the Pack Tricks from 5 to about 7% per level. Adjusting the Megavore not as a reward, but as a critical hit bonus when receiving the damage from the self-damage. Now let's get to the meat. The potatoes, the bread and butter, the stability fixes. Fixing multiple crashes that occur occasionally when interacting with the echo menu. I've had that. It's like almost like a weird lag, but that's good that they fixed it. I'll be kind of hopefully testing that tomorrow with my peeps. I'm trying to round up my squad to play some Borderlands. So if you're part of the community and you want to watch some Borderlands and me play with some people and horribly fail, maybe successfully, you could watch. Fix a crash and that occasionally occurred. The transitioning into Athena's during the 4 players multiplayer session. Now, I did notice that when you do stack more players on top of there, you definitely do get some occasionally overlay hiccups that kind of occur. With the occasional points of the quitting the main menu and the multiple times also being on top of that fix, a crash that occasionally occurs, and I'm just going to read them as the crashes occasionally occurs when the Iron Bear was destroyed, when entering or exiting the Iron Bear, while in heavy combat with the bar kids, and in the network games. Also when split screen party joins in other games during Marcus's intro. Fix a crash that occasionally occurs when split screen is where we left off in the main menu as well. A rare crash that occurs occasionally, and these are when the drops of the pieces of the loot on PC. Also, after the 3 clients have joined the host. When destructible environment and art took damage. Fixed a rare crash that also occurred when the clients transitioned to the edge. As well as the situation goes with the rare crashes that occurs when entering the fadeaway. The related issues that come to the time of day and the environment, and as well as the occurred as a result of improper text fields related to the minimap wedge and the occasional occurrence of when players fast traveled. Looking on top of that, where they fixed the reports the prevents the application from terminating properly, on top of the situation of the news widget, which hangs in the, well, it just wasn't hanging indefinitely, now it will. Disables the benchmark feature when in co-op grouping. Makes sense, you wouldn't be benchmarking. Well, maybe, you probably could test that. That'd be an extreme test too. They shouldn't have disabled that. I probably would have benchmarked that. Anyways, let's go to the UIs. As it improves the overall balance in the menus, and that was something that was ridiculous. The UI was so garbage and so many people tuned into it, so I'm really looking for the community feedback on if this hopefully fix some stuff for you. They improves the also performance in the menus. Past that, it improves the performance on the bank. PlayStation 4 only exclusive fix, which is the fix reports issues that prevented some players from making items as junk, which I know I had for sure read that it was exclusively with my PS4 brothers and sisters, and so hopefully that fix, let me know. Addresses the report where the issues were sorting the inventory by types, sometimes sorted in the inventories by scores. It added a sort by rarity to the bank and the inventory and the items and the tradings and the vending machines, as well as the selling. Very convenient. The clients now receive the indication of why their traveling attempts failed. The update names inside of the credits, so that's kind of cool. Not really. It's all right. I feel like that. Like maybe they were just getting everything fixed. But it addresses the reports issues where the corrupt characters were sometimes displayed for the fast travel stations in Japanese for simplified Chinese. Okay, I can see why that would piss them off. I was about to say, why not be worldly? But sometimes they don't get along. Addresses the issues where they report where the characters in sometimes displayed in the incorrect directions for some of the fast travel stations and the level of the transitions of the transitional translations in Chinese. So a lot of these are basic fixes with languages, seems like. Addresses the reports where the issues comparing the class mods sometimes displays in the incorrect icon on the items card, as well as the item slot sometimes overlaid when viewing the player, and where the travel countdown timers could sometimes be interrupted by opening the chat window. PC only. Addresses a report where issues when occasionally the mouse input could be lost. That is not cool for a PC player. That is not what you call clutch at all. That's the exact opposite of what you call clutch. And you go into the address screen reports and the issues where the items and cards from the beginning of the games didn't display. Addresses and reports the issues where the missions were sometimes not sorting the correct in the mission logs. Addressing and reporting the issues as well as the friends list that occasionally could be too long for a split screen, where the players could sometimes lose their HUD in the split screen, as well as where the info and the briefing panels displays when looking at the planet challenges. Looking at the addressing and what they are basically been able to report as they well the issues of the players sometimes being sent in the wrong location when selecting the destination quickly in the map. Addressing the rare issue where the dialogue box could not be dismissed. Looking at the missions of where they come into gameplay, and we are getting towards the tail end, hopefully, of this situation pretty well. They really overhauled a lot, as the reports go into, that could sometimes be with the NPCs getting stuck during the teleporter, where the progressions blocked where NPCs leading to the players could sometimes break if one of the players left in the game. The additional points of blocking where Lilith could sometimes become stuck during the mission for the ground up or from the ground up, whichever one you want to go with. As in the situation where the block that occasionally occurred when two players tried to access the mission and the items at the same time from the slot machine during the missions in Sanctuary. How unique! As well as the blocks that occasionally occurred when traveling to another map and back during the missions in Sanctuary. Seems like Sanctuary had a little bit not good of a run for bugs-free environments. Looking at the blocks where you look at where the cyclones could sometimes be lost after players entered and exit the menu during the mission's hostile takeovers. Addressing the issues where it comes down to play of blocks where the doors in the kilovolts arena sometimes wouldn't open during the mission's kilovolt. As you look in the blocks where the Amber Lamps bots could sometimes spawn during the missions, Dynasty Diner, and leave the combat area. The blocks where the Bloodshine Sisters could sometimes not spawn during the missions, Proof of Wife. Blocks where the Rise Balls, could sometimes be stuck during the missions in the space laser tag, and that was true. That was one of my favorite missions. I liked it a lot. It was really hilarious. Anyways, moving on. The progressions blocks where the bricks could sometimes become stuck in the concrete blocks during the missions hammerlocked. Blocked where the Tina sometimes couldn't be spoken during the missions hammerlocked, as well as the accessing points of Billy's Anointed would sometimes disappear during the missions of Lyre of the Harpy. Addresses the issues in the progression blocks where split screens clients could sometimes not progress the objects equipped with the empty bank frames during the missions Witch's Brew, as well as where the balls would sometimes stop passing during the mission's Family Jewels. That's another good mission. Can't say that one with a straight face though. Blocks where the Tannis. You can keep the blocks with the Tannis. I'm not really a big fan of the Tannis, but sometimes couldn't be spoke during the missions of the Grateful. But I guess you'd want the storyline in that. But I guess reports in the blocks where the Tannis sometimes wouldn't interact with the critical missions and the object and the shadow of the Starlight. And I did experience some situations where it's like you basically had to walk around her a few times and somehow it would trigger. It was weird. And then where Tink could sometimes jump out of the barrel and during the trial of the favor. As you look down to the blocks where the trial of the survival. Now we're going to make ourselves to the gameplay with the rare hunt bounties. Enemies now match the player's levels. Made adjustments where the default zoom zooms into the gamepad. The Mayhem modes now can cancel each other out. No longer can be active at the same time. Shields that start regenerating immediately after depleting now properly trigger not depleting events. Oh, cool. Mose is no longer able to infinitely stack the damage, health, and the shield regens buffs for the Brawler's Ward legendary shield after equipping the Bloodletter class mod. Rough Rider's shields properly trigger and deplete the augments when equipped, addressing the reports and the issues where certain shields couldn't properly buffed to players even when not equipped. Players could no longer stack the health regeneration points of the buff in the Brawler's Ward, the legendary shield on another shield. When repeatedly equipped and unequipped, the Brawler's Ward shield in the inventory. So you can't no longer continue to just kind of roll that over. The addressing reports and the issues where class mods and the artifacts were sometimes accumulating action skilled cooldowns. So these gameplay fixes, I'm very curious to hear what the community has to say of what is going on with it, but let's continue to hurry as the address and the reports and the issues of the Hellwalker's anointed parts could sometimes be incorrectly weighted, addressing the reports and the issues that sometimes prevented Zane's barrier from blocking the E-Tech and the weapons and the projectiles were Wax, Plet, Meat Thief could sometimes be frozen without any of the effects being frozen. In the addressing reports were the issues in the action and the cooldown points for the timer and Falk's Gamma Burst could sometimes stack in cooldowns when players revived on spawned on each time in their pets. Looking at the addressing of the reports of where the augments were the active tracking for modes sometimes didn't target the enemies in the turret. Addressing the issues where the Mayhem modifiers sometimes failed to be afflicted in the Iridium games, where players of the Anvil were sometimes not properly balanced. Also looking at the Mothers of Dragons sometimes would drop her loot. Looking at where the rare spawn enemies might not have spawned during the missions if players had already defeated the enemy during the end session. Looking at the issues where loot sometimes could spawn after players had found the Iridian writings. DirectX getting a nice improvement with the default graphics of the API in the Windows 10 for the users of AMD video cards, added support for the future types of hotfixes, the spectator modes for the takedowns, as well as the effects now dissipate faster, bullet tracing passings through Zane's shields now more traceable, improvements in general audio performance and the memory lane usage, save games trigger by memory, no more by money, or challenges in the inventory have been throttled. Addressing the reports for the issues that have saved the files had the potential to be deleted after the game crashed in the middle of the save. Addressing the reports of the issues where the Guardian's rank and the tokens could not potentially be lost. As you can see in the situation in the next one, going to the equipped weapon skins were sometimes not properly displayed, where the Echo themes were sometimes not displayed properly within co-op play, where Clay and Wainwright's Jacobs would sometimes not appear properly in their titled cards, as where the bounty turrets in the Floodmoor Basin would sometimes not detect Iron Bear, where the issues of Iron Bear could sometimes fall through the platform during the Grave Wards fight, where the players would sometimes load into the Tased Deer, as well as the situations where players sometimes could be invulnerable where swapping their artifacts. Looking in according to the reports of the rocks, could sometimes get stuck behind the geometry and whoa, that's so cool. And the Cittern of the Slaughter addresses the reports where the issues in the players who rejoin the arena in the Cittern of the Slaughter after dying. Also where the depth of the field would sometimes not work properly in the split screen, where the player's shield bar could sometimes disappear from the HUD. Also looking where the Volt symbol on the loading screen sometimes disappeared incorrectly on the consoles. Looking at where the occasion was not properly if the Echo cast was not enabled before loading into the map. Addresses the multiple issues in the badass events not spawning in certain maps on the Twitch Echo extensions. Pushing past the situation, it addresses the issues of the prevalent stats for sometimes properly incrementing while in vehicle. as well as the situation of what was going down to the service bots and the audio would sometimes ignore the acoustic data. Increasements, by the way, in the last one, increments, but same thing. It addresses the reports and the issues where the players could challenge the characters, would sometimes call out health about what? Already at their max? Weird. That's such a weird glitch. Moving on past that, the audio sometimes would be muffled or lost, and then the multiple issues where players sometimes could lose their gravity permanently. Edited groups of the hints, and now hint inputs are not available. One thing to point out that's very important in this situation is that the hotfix is separate from the update which applies, which proves the point of 1.06 and their connection of what the other hotfixes have come down are all online through them, as they basically update. Unlike the updates, the hotfixes are not permanent. They are temporarily stored in the memory during the game sessions and are lost upon exiting in Borderlands 3. To ensure that you receive the hotfix, make sure that your system is connected to the internet. When the Borderlands 3 boots up, hang on into the menu screen until you see the background change. Right now, you're looking at pumpkins. It addresses the reports and the concerns in the legendary Malwan, as well as it adds the failed portions of the targets of the ghosts. As looking at the address points of the Rampager, the item pool to allow specific legendaries to drop. And I remember when I fought the Rampager, I got this crap for loot. Looking at the reports of the concerns of the boom sickles, sometimes showed incorrectly parts and text. As that pushing goes into it, they have a lot of things for as far as what goes down to, and you can put your comments down for as far as the Mayhem update and other things that are going down. But thank you so much. This is probably one of the longest patch notes that I've posted in quite some time, but this was a huge update to what they'd done. Even though it was 1 gig on our side, it was probably about 15 gigs worth of data that they changed on their side. So they're a smart company when it comes down to changing stuff on their side versus what's going down, but sometimes they have to trick something into, I guess, going into the binary portion of the code in order for it to work. So like 1.06, even though it was very small, tripped a code inside of their server, which realigned everything, which laid the base so they can stack this on top of that. So it's like changing something, and then now both flat surfaces can sit there. So not too bad. But if you are new to the network, you can always join today for absolutely free. Helps me as a creator, and if you do today, who knows, maybe me and Marcus will team up to sell loot and have shift codes. Oh wait, I do that, so you can subscribe. I try to update daily of the shift codes that come out, so you can get free loot for just watching for about a minute of your time. So thank you, Vault Hunters and Vaultettes. I will see you guys and gals in the near future. Stay classy, and cheers for staying tuned for this long. Drop a comment. What kind of loot did you get? What kind of things have changed? And I'll see you guys and gals in the future.